This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claims School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today I'd like to speak about how an insurer can work to defeat or deter insurance fraud and why insurers must be proactive in their efforts against insurance fraud, so that they can stop the logarithmic growth of insurance fraud in the United States and around the world. Technology has shown that fraud is taking more money every year from the insurance buying public. The Coalition Against Insurance Fraud recently revised its estimates from $80 billion a year to announce that insurance fraud takes over $308 billion a year from the insurance industry. The U.S. Department of Justice, working with various federal police agencies, have taken an active role to investigate, prosecute, and convict those who defraud U.S. health programs and federally funded insurance like flood insurance and crop insurance. Yet the arrests and prosecutions that happen are only creating a small dent in the amount of money stolen from private and federally funded insurance. Since no one really knows how much is taken from insurers and federal programs, because most succeed, the best estimates, like those made by the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud, is made as an educated guess. People who are actively involved in the investigation of insurance fraud believe that more accurate an estimate is an amount equal to 10 to 30% of the premium collected. Since the property and casualty insurance industry alone collected $394.8 billion in the first half of 2021 compared to $362.3 billion for the same period in 2020, fraud took in 6 months anywhere from $39.48 billion to $118.44 billion from only the property and casualty insurance industry, a small part of the coalition's estimate. If the trend continues throughout 2021 and 2022, the amount stolen for the year would be doubled. Insurers properly complain that the local district attorneys and police agencies give a low priority to the crime of insurance fraud. Insurers have good reason to complain. They are universally ignored by police agencies when they report the crime. When insurance criminals are caught in the act, they are seldom arrested, even less often prosecuted, and almost never punished. Insurance is the only crime where the victim is required to pay for investigation and prosecution of the criminal, or no investigation will be done at all. The California Department of Insurance, for example, like similar entities across the country, compel insurers by statute to fund and staff a special investigative unit, an SIU, to investigate and report to the state potential insurance fraud and maintain a detailed anti-fraud program. The California Department of Insurance, in addition, audits insurers regularly to be sure that each insurer works hard to investigate and seek prosecution of the crime of insurance fraud, and then punishes those the department believes are not seriously working to defeat fraud. Simultaneously, the Department of Insurance punishes insurers for not paying claims rapidly or for not treating insureds or claimants fairly. Courts and juries will assess punitive and exemplary damages against insurers who accuse their insureds of fraud while looking with 20/20 hindsight at the SIU investigation that brought about the accusation of fraud. Similar businesses in the financial sector, who are also regular victims of fraud and other crimes, are not taxed, are not compelled to investigate crimes committed against them. No one demands that the Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase pay for prosecuting embezzlers or bank robbers. No one demands that Southland Corporation pay for prosecuting people who hold up 7-Eleven stores. No regulator requires stockbrokers to investigate money laundering or fraudulent activities performed against them. The imposition upon the insurance industry and the attendant costs passed on to the insurance consumer is unique. Insurers are treated differently than all other businesses in the United States. George Orwell, the famous novelist of the 20th century, was right when, to paraphrase what he had a character in Animal Farm say, that all businesses are equal. Some, however, are more equal than others. Clearly, insurers are less equal with regard to crimes perpetrated against them than are other businesses. Well, do insurers get their money's worth from fighting fraud? Insurance fraud prosecutions and investigations are anemic. I have heard from prosecutors and fraud investigators working for the state, and even judges, some of the following reasons why fraud cases just are not prosecuted. 1. A confession on the record with 5 corroborating witnesses is not enough to support a fraud prosecution. 2. An insurance company can't be the victim of a crime. 3. You have a good case, but I don't have time to prepare an indictment or take the case to a grand jury. 4. Juries don't like insurance companies. 5. Are you bringing this case because you don't want to pay a legitimate claim? 6. I don't understand what the claimant did wrong. 7. Arson for profit cases take up too much time and effort unless someone dies in the fire. Well, what can insurance people do to change the statistics? It's the obligation of all of us, whose work is to protect insurers against insurance fraud, to do something to change the lack of sufficient arrest and prosecution of insurance fraud perpetrators. Methods that are available and that should be exercised by every person who wants to reduce the effect of insurance fraud, lobbying, for example, to change the system so that all money must go to all kinds of insurance fraud at the discretion of the insurance commissioner. Prosecutors must be assigned to the Fraud Bureau or Fraud Division, and their only job must be to prosecute insurance fraud. When the local district attorney does not file a criminal complaint, the fraud investigator or lawyer for the insurer must complain loudly and in writing. Insurance people should work within the system we have. Report every suspected fraudulent claim to the Fraud Division or Fraud Bureau in your state, with an effective report including admissible evidence. Follow up with the Fraud Division after you get the letter saying they won't investigate. Supplement the suspected fraudulent claim report with investigation results and transcripts of examinations under oath. Develop a personal relationship with investigators at the Fraud Division. Develop a personal relationship with supervising investigators at the Fraud Division. And when the Fraud Division refers a case to a prosecutor, determine the identity of the prosecutor. Make it clear to the prosecutor that you represent an interested and proactive victim. Make it clear to the prosecutor that your insurance company is upset that it was the victim of a crime. Make it clear to the prosecutor that you will make available to him or her everything required for an effective prosecution. Make it clear to the prosecutor that you and other employees of the insurance company will be available to testify at the prosecutor's request. And if you're in California and 60 days go by after the case is referred to the DA, demand compliance with the requirements of California Insurance Code Section 1872.4 that provides in relevant part as follows, quote, if prosecution by the district attorney concerned is not begun within 60 days of the receipt of the commissioner's report, the district attorney shall inform the commissioner and the insurer as to the reasons for the lack of prosecution regarding the reported violations. If you're not in California, look for similar statutes in the state you are in, or simply complain to the DA or state's attorney, who are public servants and need to listen. The letter demanding an explanation for why there is no prosecution should go to the elected district attorney. He or she will refer your letter for response to a head deputy. Often they will be ashamed to tell you that the only reason for the failure is that other cases always have priority over insurance fraud. The district attorney of every county must be made aware that he or she is obligated to inform the insurance company victims why the crime is not being prosecuted. Enough letters, enough complaints, and insurance fraud will finally be recognized by prosecutors to be a serious crime. It is also the obligation of everyone involved in the effort to hinder insurance fraud to write articles for your local newspaper, telephone local reporters and complain that they don't cover the crime, call talk radio and explain the expense of insurance fraud. Volunteer for your company's speakers bureau and give talks on insurance fraud to every Rotary, Lions, BPOE, or other service organization meeting. Appear at the trial of every insurance fraud case. Demand restitution when an insurance fraud is convicted. Refuse to pay fraudulent claims, and when sued by people who are believed to have presented fraudulent claims, insist the case be tried to a jury before any payment is made. And remember Pogo, the comic strip, who was reported to have said, quote, "We have met the enemy and they is us," close quote. To defeat insurance fraud, it must be prosecuted. To get it prosecuted, the insurer must do the work, because local prosecutors will not, unless there is a serious violent crime included with the fraud. Insurance fraud must be recognized as the orphan child of the criminal justice system and will never be defeated until the public and prosecutors recognize that insurance fraud is a serious problem that affects their own financial condition. It is time that insurers stop complaining and do the work necessary to defeat this metastasizing crime before its growth eats away any chance insurers and their shareholders have of making a profit. Everyone involved in the business of insurance and everyone who buys insurance must make it clear that they are angry at what is happening to their insurance premium dollar. When I and everyone who has ever purchased a policy of insurance hears that $300 to every $1,000 we pay in premium goes to a criminal, we should all want to scream out the window, as did the character in Network, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore." This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on zelma.com/blog. You can subscribe and receive these videos every time they're published, usually 5 times a week. And you can see the videos on rumble.com or on youtube.com. And I'd appreciate it if you click on the Rumble button or the like button if you do. And you might also wish to subscribe to my Substack publications and my Locals community. Thank you for your attention.